This is the cream of the crop of women's education in the United States. The institution has a large endowment and a lot of resources that it invests in the education that students receive. It's a magnificently beautiful campus with fabulous facilities, first-rate faculty, excellent students, 12 miles from Boston. It might be paradise.
I'm so glad I ran into you. We're forming a new Residential Life Committee, and I would love for you to be on it. I don't know what your commitments are right now.
Well, it could definitely do if it was on a Friday.
I think we're around there.
And what kind of issues are they going to be discussing on it?
We want to talk about residential space. We're going to talk about residential activities. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it really sounds like a really interesting...
And it was one of your agenda items, so I thought that would be perfect for you.
When this 12-inch telescope was first built in 1869, it was the 5th largest telescope in the world. We live in a galaxy very much like this one.
Now that the crystal's beginning to glow, you can see it's not directly in front of the oxygen doser there.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe it's a couple of degrees off.
We're trying to understand what happens when low energy electrons interact with different organic compounds. Everyone knows about radiation therapy for cancer. What they know is that you have high energy radiation shined on your body to sort of kill the cancer cells. But what they don't know is that high energy irradiation, when it comes into contact with matter, forms copious amounts of low energy electrons. Those low energy electrons are actually what's causing the therapeutic effects that you see from radiation therapy. Chris is my advisor. When I came to his lab as a freshman, I didn't have any idea about how to do radiation or surface chemistry or what an ultra-high vacuum chamber was. And he's the one who taught me the basic technique and gave me the types of analytical skills that I need to design my own experiments. I love doing this work. I'm applying to medical school, and I hope to attend an MD, PhD degree program.
Typically, students will go to professional meetings with the faculty person, present their work, and publish that work. You don't have to be a science major. Actually, one of my best students was a Russian major. The most fun that I have had is watching a student who may not be the best student when she's in her sophomore year, beginning some research, getting very excited about it, and then by the time she's a senior, doing an honors thesis and coming up with real significant research.
The next thing I wanted to ask you about was the panel and how I should negotiate representing myself as a student leader or as an individual student, or what they'll really want to hear about, would you say?
They're definitely going to want to hear both perspectives. So they want to hear about general campus issues from you as student government president.
Okay.
And they're going to want to know about your personal experience, academic, social, etc. So cover both in your comments.
The thing that's so striking to me, though, is the way the artist has created what seems to be architectural space on the flat canvas through the use of these orthogonal lines that converge at different points in the painting, creating this really powerful sense of spatial recession. So it's a flat surface with the illusion of movement backward, and I love being able to compare this painting to the sculpture that's in the corner.
We're here in the Davis Museum, and we were comparing a piece by Dan Flavin and Arakawa. You obviously wouldn't expect a fluorescent light to be a work of art, but because of the way it interacts with the space, it actually becomes a very interesting piece. Professor Berman is my thesis advisor, and my thesis is actually about 2 murals by Keith Haring. He was an artist that became very famous in the 1980s. One is in Brooklyn, and the other one is at Carmine Street Swimming Pool. It's art within the real world, and it becomes accessible to people. It also takes on a community identity. I go to New York about once every 2 weeks. The art history department actually sets aside funding for thesis students who might have to do research off campus. It's fairly easy to apply.
Morning, everybody. Everybody have a good weekend? Want to hear about Springsteen before we get started? I think I probably have one of the best jobs in academia. My students are excellent. They work hard. They're engaged in their studies. They're fun to be with. They're kind and interesting people from all over the world. We know why we want to be above the break-even point, because your profits are positive. Why are we including the points between shutdown and break-even? Daria?
Because if you operate after the shutdown point, then you're making a profit on operations. You're making at least enough to cover your variable costs.
So do these points exist? Are they on your supply curve?
Yes.
This is intermediate microeconomics. It is well known among our students to be the hardest course in the major. It's highly quantitative, it's highly mathematical, it's highly abstract. And so part of the point of this course is to help students learn to think in abstractions. It's a real pleasure to teach, because for most people it's the first time they've ever done anything like this intellectually. I'm most likely to hear students writing back saying, wow, those skills that you taught me about how to think about things in the abstract are something that I use every day.
That people should spontaneously combust, Dickens is saying, isn't more outrageous than that there should be a court of chancery that operates the way it does. In Bleak House, he says at the end of the preface, I have purposely dealt on the romantic side of familiar things. And I think he's telling us, just because you think that what I write is lurid, extravagant, ridiculous, look again, the world is lurid, extravagant, and ridiculous, is filled with things like that. And this is a form of deep realism in some way to be so spectacular and peculiar. Well, how about spontaneous combustion? I mean, why that death for Crook?
Well, Crook is, like, very independent. He's got, I mean, there's nobody that he really connects with. It made sense to me that it would be his death that was like that, not anybody else's, because he was so unaffected by other people.
Okay, so it's got to do with solitariness and failure of relationship in some way. Can you think of any other sense to make of it? Yeah, okay.
And also that he's a really mysterious character, and the spontaneous combustion leaves nothing behind, really.
Yeah.
And it's also a very obscure way to die.
This past summer, I was a